Thank you very much, Ian, and thank you for having me again on Boston Blockchain Week. I'm excited to be here. So today's topic, as we said, was the future of wallets. And I do want to get a consensus about what's going on here. So how many people have actually used like anything in crypto? Coinbase, hot wallets? If not everyone's raising their hands, I'm not going to believe it. All right, that's like a good 80%. Well, we have the experts in wallets here today, so definitely open for questions. And we have Sheldon, Tim, and Justin. So before we get into this, I want to definitely get a little brief intro of each of you. So Sheldon, if you can give an intro of what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys hear me? All good?
So.
Perfect. Yes, I'm the founder and CEO of Sugarcane. A bit of background on myself. I went to MIT, so pretty close to this area. So did computer science there. Been in the crypto space since 2016. And the big thing I've realized is that the big issue in crypto right now is around the user experience of it all. And so we basically created Sugarcane to simplify the accessing any DeFi protocol. And so the kind of on-ramping process is that you download our mobile app and you sign up with your email, and then we automatically deploy smart contract wallets. So those of you who are familiar with account abstraction, we kind of make it easy for you to get access to any kind of crypto product across any chain in a pretty simple process. So excited to talk more about it.
Great, glad to be here today. Thanks to you guys for coming. I'm with ZelCore. We think of ourselves as a gateway to Web3. We have a lot of different technologies in there. We're going to talk today about our wallet technology in particular. And we really are focused on not picking winners and losers, which is, a lot of people do that in this space. Even though everybody talks about DeFi, there's a lot of maximalist views in this world. And so we try and overcome that. We support over 70 blockchains, multi-asset, multi-product, so mobile, desktop, Android, Apple, Linux, whatever you want, we'll give you the product there. And we're doing some cool stuff here in the next 30 days on bridging some stablecoins to some underserved protocols. So looking forward to that as well.
Hi, I'm Justin. I'm the CEO of Gridplus. We're a hardware wallet manufacturer, making me the odd man out here. We set out to make a hardware wallet designed specifically for smart contract chains. The majority of what people have been using are sort of legacy tech designed for when what we signed with crypto was very different, just basically only value transfers. But what we do today is much more complicated. So our job is to basically provide the highest degree of security available to complement software wallets and all the things you are already doing every day.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's the thing with like crypto wallets, it's been a long journey. I mean, today we are in the future already. Like it's come a long way. We used to have to download the entire blockchain on our computers just to interact with something. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but pre-2017, pre-MetaMask, that was a life. But it's going to get really exciting the next 5 years. So, but before we get into that too, like you were talking about exchanges, Tim. So I kind of want to know, what does that mean in terms of someone who's using Coinbase as an exchange and maybe using ZelCore as an exchange, and how does their money interact with those wallet types?
Yeah, well, I think we're all kind of up here representing self-custody and non-custodial wallets. And I'm a huge believer in we're going to end up in a hybrid world. I think anybody that thinks it's going to be all DeFi that's too an extreme of a libertarian view. And I think that will always get in the way of us really moving the ball forward. So there will always be those, particularly in the United States, right? So, we try and make sure we can work with the DeFi products, whether it's via a stablecoin bridge or whether it's Wallet Connect or something, and then we can work with the Coinbases, Binance, et cetera of the world so that, we've actually looked at some just-in-time funding. So I think a lot of people leave money on Coinbase so they can be ready for, or whatever centralized exchange, so they can be ready to buy or ready to sell no matter what the momentum of a particular asset is. So we're looking at some top technology so that we have relationships with them, so that if there's a trusted relationship so you can fund it just when you need it and not worry about, am I on exchange so that I can make the buy?
Yeah. And with exchanges, it's like, it's safe, it's easy to use. It's somewhere I go to buy my crypto. I can trust Coinbase. And I don't have to think about, where are my private keys? Did I share my private keys to somebody? What do I do with it? And security is a big issue with crypto, of course. But a top lesson or top saying is not your keys, not your crypto. And Justin, I kind of want to go into you about what does that mean, especially with someone who's building a hardware wallet?
Okay, not your keys, not your crypto, specifically means that what we're dealing with here are fundamentally bearer assets. So you can use a custodian. A lot of people, that's where everyone starts. You have an exchange that you use, you buy something on Coinbase, but ultimately you're still just trusting a third party. And the real value of crypto comes from disintermediation. And this is an entirely new type of bearer asset. Prior, the only way we could really have an in-person value transaction is with physical cash. But now we're able to do that in the digital realm, which was previously not possible. But that said, there's no bigger honeypot for hackers out there than digital bearer assets. You might have seen recently Mark Cuban lost a lot of funds out of his MetaMask wallet. We know the attack vector. And that's why we manufacture hardware wallets, because there is always going to be a tremendous amount of people out there who are focused on how to get your money. And there's never really, it's just a fundamental security consideration that you can never have a general purpose device like a phone or a computer have the same properties and have secure signing like you would with a separate device. So yeah, everyone comes into crypto, they're excited about NFTs, the application layer, but at the core of it, it is a very risky thing to have to manage your own money. I always think about things in terms of explaining crypto to my dad, which is like my metric for whether the language I'm using is clear and concise enough. And one of the first things he said was, wait, so like if I lose my seed phrase in my wallet, it's just gone? Like I can't call anybody? I was like, it's just gone. It's like throwing your physical cash in the trash can. So we want to bring that level of security to every user without having them to become experts. You know, people want to drive to work. They don't want to know how an internal combustion engine works. And it's much the same with digital assets. So between the software guys doing the UX, making that easier, and us helping people sleep at night, there's a lot of room to improve on what we have today.
Sure, and that's...
Hey, Rudy, can I add on that?
Please do.
I think it's the issue of custody, right? And there's two issues there. One is the complexity of whether it's the security or the asset ownership and what layer it's on and all that stuff. I think the other issue is, and an earlier panelist really got to this point, in the United States, there is no moral hazard. If you lose your money, you can sue someone and get your money back, or the government will print more money and cover you, i.e. Silicon Valley Bank, right? So people in the US struggle with this concept of custody. People in other parts of the world have been storing US dollars under their mattress for hundreds of years, right? So I think this is where this is really going to take off, because they understand that I'm on my own. I can't look to somebody else. I can't trust other people. And I think that's where that's going to really get legs. And then eventually the US will give up some control.
And like as you were saying, like it is scary having all your money under your mattress and having your private keys under your mattress or wherever it is. Hopefully it's not under your mattress, but figuratively. But there is new technology being built around having that custody without having to go through such extremes or disconnection. So I think I want to take this with you, Sheldon. I mean, I know you're using this new tech, so how are you using that with Sugarcane, and how do you hold custody of your assets with that?
Yeah, so one quick addition to what you were saying is that like the whole unlock for DeFi is this whole new world of like financial services, right? That there's no central entity, no organization that can debank you or take that from you. And so the idea is that with Sugarcane specifically, we allow you to access those new types of financial services and products, right? And so with what we actually built out, the actual consumer doesn't have to think about the bridges, the chains, the gas, about accessing any of the complexity of crypto, but still be able to still maintain custody of their assets through a lot of the smart contract technology that we've built out. So it's still a best of both worlds, where we have the security of self-custody, but also the actual usability of a Web3 experience like a Robinhood or a Chime, where you don't have to actually think about the actual underlying network of what you're using. That's kind of what we're building out with Sugarcane.
And to expand a little bit more about what you guys were talking about before, maybe losing your keys or having protection over your accounts, there's new tech being developed over social recovery, account recovery, and I kind of want to go into a little bit more about that. If you can go a little bit deeper on that, and then Justin and Tim, I want to hear your opinions too.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So kind of what Rudy was talking about was this whole concept of social recovery, right? So if you have a friend or a mom or a dad or somebody who's like has some type of interest in you being like okay, right? What you can end up doing is basically still have the same level of like security. I control my assets, but then in the event that, let's say, my keys get lost or I lose my phone or I lose access to my computer, right? This other person who has almost like a update key on your account, they can basically re-establish connection to your account. So now you can have them still have somewhat of a control in like helping you get your account back without having to actually have them have complete control over your account. So it's a way to recover your keys without having to have them control your account completely. So definitely new technology is coming out that makes it a whole easier. Social recovery.
Yeah, Justin, go into like, if you're using a Gridplus,
Yeah.
how do you use social recovery?
So what we do, it will be done through, like when account abstraction is implemented on Ethereum in particular, we're still just going to be the signer for that, regardless of how it's actually formatted with a contract. I actually only recently came around on social recovery because we talk to people every day who reach out to a security company only after something terrible has happened. And so the main attack vector is social engineering. It's basically just tricking people into giving away their keys, signing something they shouldn't. So the idea of relying on other people to be your backups made me very uncomfortable. But that said, what I came to realize was that it doesn't actually have to be just people. You can also have, one of those key shards or one of your guardians in particular in this implementation be Coinbase. It can be another service that you rely on. So you can set this up in all different ways, and I think that will help go a long way to assuaging concerns about that whole idea of, if I lose my keys, I'm done. So it adds a little fail-safe, and I think we'll see some really cool implementations that will help users keep their money safe.
Is ZelCore using anything with social recovery as a tool now, or is that?
We're not. I mean, we're looking at a lot of things like abstraction, et cetera. We have a pretty aggressive user base around this topic. And whenever we try and do something that leans in that direction, we get a hard pushback of, this is how we want to handle it, and we want to live with it the way that it is today. I think that the space is figuring out a lot of different issues. People talked earlier today about zero knowledge proofs and those kind of things. All of this is going to evolve because I think in order for mass adoption, we're going to have ways for people to feel comfortable with this for account recovery, social recovery, et cetera, and account extraction in particular, right? I think that all of those technologies will come. We just got to figure out the right customer base and the right timing around that.
Yeah, and you hit on mass adoption. I wanted to ask that question too, is what do we need for mass adoption? It's getting someone on Coinbase is a challenge enough, and telling someone how to use your wallet and how to move Ethereum to something like a Gridplus or Ledger. I get a mini panic attack moving my money around in Ethereum. I don't know why. I know the transaction's happening. I see it. I count the seconds. I'm still nervous. I don't know why, but I am. But for mass adoption to happen, what is something that needs to happen?
I feel really strongly about this, right? I think we can all start with, we need to use different words. I mean, I just think about the technology we've used in the time we've been up here for 10 minutes, right? We've talked about abstraction, we've talked about sharding, we've talked about recovery, all these different things. And I think it really is daunting for people who can't get their head around the concept of crypto, right? I also think that, I say this very often, if you're the manager and this is a 9-inning game, you would never send finance up as the first batter.
Yeah.
Never. Right? Because there's too many people up there, and blockchain is all about the back end, right? But think about all the people in particularly the US that feel they have a infinitesimal ownership of the patents for the back end, the JP Morgans of the world, et cetera, right? And anybody in this room could walk out of here and in a weekend build a back end money solution here. I mean, that's a huge threat to that, right? I'm sorry, I got off topic there a little bit, right? But I just mean for mass adoption, we need to use different words, and then the wallets are where it all comes together, right? It is the rubber meets the road, and it's a really hard challenge that we have when we have all of these different protocols that have, you really need to be down in the deep there. I mean, Sheldon talked about earlier, that's what his firm's really focused on, is abstracting away all of those particulars. When we get there, and we're not talking about the particulars, we're just talking about the uses themselves, that's when we'll start to have mass adoption.
Yeah, and just try to make it as easy as possible. I know you're working on that.
Yeah.
How is Sugarcane working on making mass adoption possible?
Yeah, so like one thing I just wanted to kind of quantify, right? So like if you look at the total number of mobile users across the world, it's about 3 billion people, right? if you look at the number of users that Coinbase has, which is the most widely used, I guess, in the States, crypto exchange, there's about 100 million people, right? So there's like already a huge drop off there. And if you look at the current number of people who are using MetaMask, which is also one of the most popular like wallets that are self-custodial in the crypto space, there's about 5 million people there, right? So the reason why I think there's a huge drop off from like the large number of like mobile banking users down to Coinbase, down from Coinbase down to MetaMask is like the current user experience is completely terrible, right? Like if you're actually interacting with anything on chain, you have to think about gas, which is like something that is completely foreign from like regular interaction, but like it's actually paying for the transaction to occur, right? Or if you're thinking about picking the chain that you're on, right? That's kind of like what I kind of describe it as is like if you have to use like Safari to interact with a game, or you have to use Firefox to interact with your Facebook account, or you have to switch over to Google Edge, Microsoft or Internet Explorer Edge just to interact with another website. That's kind of the experience in crypto right now, where you have to switch all these different like technical things, when in reality that's not what it's supposed to be. So with Sugarcane again, we actually abstract again all the complexity of like the chains, the bridges, the gas, like all these deeply technical subjects that, again, I'm a nerd, I like to nerd out about it, but like the general consumer is not gonna care about it. Like my brother, he's also in his like 30s, he also does not have anything to do with crypto just because like to use anything in DeFi, again, it's fairly technical, right? But for someone like my brother or even my parents, right, they have to be completely simple, abstracted away, very similar to like Robinhood, very similar to like a Chime, very similar to like a Cash App, very similar to Venmo, where none of this stuff is actually present in your face. So that's kind of our take on it. So that's how we've been doing it.
Yeah. And for hardware wallets, that's like the gold standard of security for your crypto. And also probably the most challenging thing to explain to someone to use. So Justin, how are you handling mass adoption with that aspect?
A couple of things on that. I do think Tim hit on an excellent point, which is that the language that we use is just way too opaque for the average person. And we need more people in the space who have the ability, like a technical writer, to convert from engineer to plain English. And that's something we need so many more people involved with. But hardware wallets in particular. So I think wallets, because the foundation of all of this is public key cryptography. That signing is what makes all of Web3 possible. The biggest hurdle for mass adoption is going to be wallets, key recovery. Everyone who's used a wallet has probably had the experience of backing up a 24-word seed phrase, which is absolutely terrible in another way that most people lose their money, just through mishandling it or trying to be too clever and doing something that leads to the loss of that, basically access to your life savings. So wallets are going to be where the biggest UI gains are made, but I don't think there's going to be one solution for everybody. There's always going to be different needs for different purposes. You mentioned that abstracting it away in many cases is what's going to bring a larger audience. For us, we're focused on the most secure applications. We want people to, well, the two things you get out of a hardware wallet are you get your keys in a secure environment. Your phone or your computer will never be a sufficiently secure environment for your keys. And the other thing is you get signing on a secure screen. That's really important because we see these things like Mark Cuban with his hot wallet, where you might have malware on your computer. What you think you're signing is something else. So having that signature cryptographically verified on a screen is what gives you that level of security. But I digress a little bit because I don't think hardware wallets necessarily have to be a mass. I don't think everyone has to be using them for mass adoption of crypto. I think the level of security that we're engineering for is used by governments, enterprises, power users, prop trading funds. So we really want a device that if someone from a 3-letter agency has it in their physical possession, they're not getting your private keys. Not everybody needs that. You don't need that to trade a couple NFTs. So we're focused on that end of the solution. And I think that's really important because as much as I love the home hacker hobbyist mindset of crypto, sometimes we're way too glib about these things because this is globally, systemically important technology. Our legislators are talking about it regularly. We don't need hobbyist level tools any longer. So for me, I'm not going to try and reach every consumer, but I'm going to try and reach all the people that need those security guarantees.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with hardware wallets or any of your wallets. Like, the goal is to layer on different wallets, so you can use a MetaMask or maybe a Sugarcane or a ZelCore and then add Gridplus on top of it as your layers of security, just to strengthen it. And it's not one or none. which is kind of the nice thing about crypto. It's interoperable. You can work with whatever you want if they allow it, which they should.
So the majority of our users will use our hardware wallet is through MetaMask. It connects, you see a sign-in request in your software wallet, and then you have a second to keep yourself safe in case you're doing something that you didn't mean to by verifying that transaction against what you see on your hardware screen. So if those two match, it's what you intend to do, you're interacting with the accounts you've labeled, then you can rest easy and press that button without your palm sweating.
Now, as entrepreneurs, what has been your most difficult challenge in this wild, wild west industry of crypto? Sheldon, I'll start with you.
I think I will speak for everyone here that the big elephant in the room is regulation. Just because, like, given the fact that we're all in a fairly nascent space, the regulation isn't written out, especially in the States. It hasn't been very clear. And so as we're all building the space, that's definitely something that we think pretty deeply about. So I think that's my kind of quick answer.
Yeah, you know, I talked a little bit ago that the challenges of being in the space and being in the wallet, where it all comes together, right? So that you kind of expect that, right? You've got competitors and you've got partners that you need to. When you've got the government and other things working against you, I was in traditional finance for 30 plus years, and there was always a lot of negative news. And for my first 18 months, I've been in crypto for about 3 plus years. My first 18 months, every day was a great day, you know? And for the last 18 months, it's been more about, hey, the bank just called, they're shutting down our relationship. What are you gonna do? So fortunately, we already had a backup plan, right? But there's been more of that stuff that doesn't help you move the product forward, but it slows you down, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would actually say the biggest issue that is on the mind of entrepreneurs in this space, regulation, and all these are big ones, is the cyclical nature of the markets and being able to manage your cash reserves appropriately so that your company is going to be around for the long run. You know, we see the valuations where absolutely terrible ideas in a bull market can generate tens of millions of dollars of funding and beyond. And then the absolute best builders in the space in a bear market can struggle to scrape together angel checks. So that is really important, spending to grow while at the same time being a little prudent and conservative to accommodate that cyclical nature. That impacts your user base, it impacts your funding options, and really every aspect of what you're doing.
And thank you. And we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions in the audience? You have the great. Start with you. I think you raised your hand first. The mic's coming. We're the best crypto people with wallets over here, so definitely ask your questions if you want to know something.
Okay, I'm brand new to crypto, so I'm one of those people that needs it in layman's terms. Parts of what you guys were saying reminded me a little bit of the issue with financial illiteracy. Like most of us at least know many or some person that was way too late on investing. Just to give you a comparison, I recently went to a conference and the speaker was saying how if you're 20 and you want to be a millionaire, if you invest $500 a month, you can be a millionaire by the time you're like retired. But if you're 30, you have to invest $1,100. If you're 40, you have to invest double, $500 or $1,100 when you're 40. So when I'm listening to you guys, I'm thinking, okay, are we at the point where this potentially could rival in a near future financial literacy, and how can we make this more accessible to people like myself and like the local families so it doesn't end up being a dangerous situation? But then I also hear the parts of your conversation where, I'm not sure what your name is, sir,
Rudy,
but
that's right.
Bruce, where
Rudy.
You're saying even you yourself are frightened to like switch the currencies. So then I'm thinking, okay, it's a little way too early for people who are totally not knowledgeable to enter the space. And I'm a writer, so eventually, hopefully, I'll write something for the local people who can, understand it. But I'm still figuring it out. So thank you.
So yeah, I guess.
I can jump up. Yeah. So, kind of the three, to give you a bit of context. So, kind of the three big pillars for Sugarcane. One is around simplicity, so making a clean, simple experience, and we've pretty much focused a lot on technology to do that. Secure, so a lot of the actual ways in which we secure assets also very, very, very secure as well. And the third thing is educational. Right, so what I mean by that is just because people who are coming into crypto, there's a lot of uncertainty both for the technology and also from the actual financial nature of it. And so for that perspective, we actually launched a podcast where we actually talk a lot about like, what is a transaction, or how do I think about money, or how do I think about like crypto? Like just the really like simple questions that you never really get answered. You don't really have a friend who knows enough about it to explain to you in a simple way. So we launched a podcast called the Sugarcane Podcast. where we answer a lot of these questions. And the second thing is that within the actual application itself, it helps people understand what they're doing and educate them on like why you're doing the thing you're doing, because like people again who are using crypto, they may not necessarily know what it is the actual product is doing. So we educate people as they're going along in the actual application itself. So definitely like we're thinking a lot about that, especially like with new people coming to the space. So.
You know, maybe what I would add is, look, the mass adoption question is, there needs to be another use case that takes off, gaming or something else that people are comfortable with, that feels lower risk. Sure. Think iPod, iPhone with calls and music. Not all the mobile uses we think about today, right? Sure. We've gone so past that, right? So we need a use case like that. I think the other thing I would say to this financial literacy issue, look, the crypto markets are incredibly inefficient for a lot of the reasons we talked about today. I tell my own kids, get smart on this, because there's an opportunity for you. I mean, a lot of people feel like they've missed the opportunity that they can be more wealthy than their parents, right? I think crypto is the opportunity to do that, but it's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be really hard to get over, and blockchain will win the day. It's the technology of blockchain that win the day. Crypto will just be a means to lubricate it.
Do you want to add?
Yeah, I want to add just a little bit because you mentioned the nastiness on Twitter and how that's a turnoff. Unfollow all the people who are just influencers or traders. Follow people who are building things. But there is this really nasty insular streak in online crypto communities. And with that, it makes getting a toehold on the technology that much harder. So I think, you guys have touched on it. Bridging that gap isn't just about user education. When something bad happens to someone, they lose their assets. There's always, people on Twitter who are like, oh, they should have known better. Yeah. But it's our responsibility as an industry to do better for everyone, to make it easier to do these things, and not just push it onto user education.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good. And you think you had a question too? You have a mic? Yeah. Mic's coming.
All right, so I'm familiar with hot wallets, and I use MetaMask and all that sort of stuff. So I've never used a hardware wallet, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess, what happens if I have a hardware wallet connected to my MetaMask and I break that device? That device gets wet or destroyed in some fashion. Am I now locked out of my wallet, or what are the fail-safes for that?
So it's all about backups. Any secure account, whether it's a hot wallet, a cold wallet, you should have multiple secure backups. Without talking about our solution too much, what we do, our device is a little unusual. It's a desktop device, and we have cards you put in to make backups. They are exactly like a credit card. Same sort of physically unclonable chip you would have in your debit or credit cards. So make a bunch of copies on that. There's more opportunities there to split it up and do other things. But no matter how you're using it, you won't lose that crypto if you lose the device. In much the same way, if you're just using MetaMask on your laptop, if you have an appropriate backup, you won't lose it. So, but that's really what we do. The experience is we just supplement MetaMask and all the other tools we work with. You plug in, you select Connect Hardware Wallet, and you sign in both spots. And that prevents you from being impacted by malware and so many other attack vectors. But yeah, backups for everything, no matter how you're doing it.
Yeah, thank you. We're out of time now, but please come to us for more questions. I know there's more hands up. But thank you again, Sheldon, Tim, and Justin. Please find us around. Thank you.
Thank you.